What's good, YouTube? Flash Speaks back, man. Another video. I got some football stuff coming, man. Whole lot going on. But like I said, off season don't really um, do it for me like that. All right, so last night we had two games, really good games. Indiana Fever traveled to Dallas Wings, and Dallas Wings able this particular game to get a little bit of their lick back. You know what I mean? They went out there, and it was a really close game, but I felt like Dallas was more prepared. They were ready to go. Indiana Fever did. Indiana Fever were not surprising to me, and this is because um, they're among the better teams in the league, but they're still not champions. You know, they're still not like teams with that type of consistency with them. They're still relatively new with many of their pieces. You also got to factor in the fact that they just they just lost McDonald, they just lost Colson, so now they're trying to implement uh, the player they just picked up, man, Odyssey Sims, right? So yesterday it looked like they went with Mitchell running a little bit of point from what I remember. Um, you did a lot of like Sophie Cunningham along with Lexi Hall in, at the same time. Stephanie White was trying different things. I mean, it didn't really look that bad. I mean, I think a lot of it was more so as a result of, number one, Dallas has revenge on their mind. That's part of what happens when teams are vengeful. They tend to come out with more effort. Indiana Fever playing down to the competition and looking at it like it's the Dallas Wings. Yeah, they're, just double team Paige Beckers pretty much. Enrique is not even playing. How many threats do they really have? Will come in. I mean, it wasn't really a plan for like a Maddie Segrist, right? There's not a plan for Lee Uru because, I mean, who plans for them, right? So I think that had a lot to do with the result. It was more so not that Dallas played so well, but more so the Fever played down. And I don't think it's a situation where, it's a fireable offense for Stephanie White. I think that's stupid. All that type of talk coming from Fever fans, that type of talk is really stupid. And the reality is, those Fever fans, they really don't want the Fever to have a coach. They really don't. What they want is Caitlin Clark to be the best player, the ball handler, and they really want Caitlin Clark to be the coach. As I mentioned yesterday, from listening to, many of their channels, they think Caitlin Clark is smarter than the head coach anyway. So, I wouldn't pay a lot of attention to that clown show, and I would listen to people who were, serious about basketball. One could, I guess, blame Stephanie White for getting the team for failing to get the team to the point where they play their best every night in and night out. But this is a lot of teams, man, with the exception of maybe those teams that can go a whole season losing 5 games or something like that. You know what I mean? You got the Seattle Storm, who I think are pretty loaded, talent-wise, going through a slump right now. It happens. You got, should you just be getting rid of Noel Quinn? Is that how that works? The Phoenix Mercury this year, one of the premier teams, loaded with talent. There are times when they've gone through slumps, and they have, all-stars like Satu. They have Alyssa Thomas. They have Kalia Copper, champions, and they go through slumps. It happens. You don't have to get rid of the coach because you don't win every freaking game. That type of mentality is just like, but like I've said many times, I want those fans to get their wish. I want them to bring in a coach that they want. Lisa Bluter or whatever, someone who you think is just going to let Caitlin Clark do whatever she wants. And I already know what's going to happen. It's going to be bumping heads with great players. Great players will force their way out, so you'll get them out of there, and then you're going to have to bring in a bunch of level 3 players, tier 3, tier 4 players to play along with her, to go along with what you want. Maybe you can keep Sophie Cunningham, who cares more about being friends with the popular girl on the block, more so than wins. And then maybe Lexi Hull is just, because she's just a nice person, might go along with it. But a lot of the players, man, who have their own ambitions, they're not going to go for it. And I think that they just have to learn that. And then a lot of coaches you have to convince a coach to believe that style will actually win something. It appears you've already had two coaches who don't believe that. Stephanie White clearly doesn't. Any good fan base that knows basketball, what you would want is for your young player to learn. At the hands of someone who's obviously older, more experienced, knows more basketball. All of those types of things. But I hope y'all get what y'all want. I really do. Now, on the second game, you had the New York Liberty and the Sparks. The Sparks right now have lost 2 of their last 3, but I got to admit, they've been in a tough stretch here. One of the toughest probably parts of their schedule. You had to play a hungry Valkyries team, followed by the next day, you had to go in there and play the Seattle Storm, and you can say what you want about the Storm being on a slide or whatever, but that's a tough out for anybody. And then really you get one day off, and then you got to come back and play the New York Liberty, atop, the champions. Even without Breanna Stewart, they're still tough. Still one of the best teams in the league. So Sparks came out. Their 5 starters were in double figures. So that's good from that standpoint. New York Liberty was looking to get their lick back on them as well, because the Sparks had beat them previously in a double overtime, I believe it was. It was either double or triple. It was a long game, hell of a game. Same I would say about yesterday. It was a good game. Sparks, to me, are always very entertaining to watch. Probably them and Phoenix, but I'll say they're one of my favorite teams to watch right now in terms of just entertainment value. Lost to the New York things. Sabrina, just as a whole, believe they had 27 assists as a team. That's excellent basketball. Just good ball movement, sharing the ball, good fundamentals, good defense. New York Liberty, what more can you say? Went out there and handled their business. And I believe the Valkyries, and right now Valkyries moved up to 7 because the Storm are still skidding. I expect the Storm to kind of turn it around a little bit. I really do. I think Brittany Sykes will ultimately end up being a plus more than a minus, though they haven't won with her yet, I don't think. But I think she'll still end up being a plus. She's now someone that they can just give the ball to, especially as a closer. One of the best closers, probably. She's been doing it all year with the Mystics. People overlook that, but Sykes, Slump can get you buckets. So I think that'll happen. But also the Sparks, I still think I believe they stood in the 9th spot. So it's still between them, Valkyries, and Seattle. Who's going to grab that last 8th spot. So I'm gonna keep a watch on that. I really want to see the Sparks get there because I would love to see them in the playoffs. And they were my pick. They were one of my picks, my dark horse picks. Before the season, if you go back to my early predictions, so I kind of want to see that happen. The Valkyries were a surprise, threw a monkey wrench in the whole thing. I had them picked to go dead last, 13th. I was obviously wrong about that. That might end up being the damn sky, So overall, man, good win for Dallas Wings. Good win for New York Liberty. On Paige Bueckers. Paige, I think, was solid yesterday. She struggled from the floor. I think she was like 6 of 18, unlike her. Normally, you're looking at her to be around high 40s, 50% from the floor. I still think she's bothered by back issues, which she seemed to had bothered again yesterday. She spent some time laying on the floor there, and without Enrique, they pulled together and they got their leg back somewhat, because I think they've lost 2 games to the Fever so far. So that's good for them. But about Paige Bueckers, though she struggled from the floor, she played really solid defense. Did a good job of getting teammates involved. Looked like a nice young leader out there. I was impressed with what she was doing, because sometimes I look at that. When the scoring isn't happening, what else can you do? And I felt like she really did some good things there, man. So shout out to her, Rookie of the Year. I know there's been an argument here about her and Sonia Citron. Hey, look, regardless what you think, there's been an argument that Sonia Citron has typically outplayed her going back years through college and AAU and all of that. And I mean, that's not really an unusual thing. Oftentimes there could be players who have issues with a particular player for various reasons. I remember Sonia Citron gave Juju Watkins, one of the biggest, some of the more problems than I've seen anyone else give her defensively. I mean, some players that happens sometimes. Does not necessarily mean, that player is better, right? I remember Michael Jordan would have issues with Ron Harper and Mitch Richmond at times, but no one's going to say Harper or Mitch Richmond was actually a better player, So those things happen in basketball. Rookie of the Year, I believe, is Paige Bueckers. You look at the numbers all across the board. She's individually, I think performed better than Citron. Citron has had some great moments. And Citron's on a better team as well, or a little more of a balanced team. She got bigs. She also played with Brittany Sykes all year, who was better than Enrique this year. So those things, you got to factor that in as well. When we talk about the team success, when we speak from that standpoint, So I like Bueckers still, to be the Rookie of the Year so far. With 11 or 10 games left, that's my Rookie of the Year. And that's pretty much what I got on that, man. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll get back with you later. Peace out.